1957. A woman in Louisville, Kentucky sets her clothes out the night before a Tuesday. Not for a party, for the hardware store. A buttoned cotton dress for the morning. The stiffened net underskirt, slightly rustling, hung from a nail she put there herself. And on a second hanger, the piece she'll reach for when she leaves the house. 13 wardrobe pieces, every one in every American woman's closet, every one now gone. Number 9 is why a $5 dress from the catalog looked like it cost 3 times more. Number 1 has been absent from everyday wardrobes for 30 years and is back on every major runway this season. Number 13 is the house dress. And I want to be precise about what this was, because it is not the same thing as a regular dress. A house dress was a specific garment, button front cotton with a belt attached at the waist, worn for the morning hours, for cleaning, cooking, managing the house, and then changed before going anywhere or receiving company. $2.98 at Sears in 1954, $5.98 if you wanted something with a collar. Margaret, the woman from Louisville, owned 4 of them. She washed them on Monday and Tuesday, and by Wednesday they were dry, pressed, and hanging again. They came in small, cheerful prints, checks, stripes, tiny florals, the sort of pattern that reads from across a room as simply clean. The house dress was not about aesthetics. It operated on a principle that has since disappeared. There is a difference between how you dress for work at home and how you dress for the world. The morning half of your day had its own uniform. Then you changed. Cottagecore brought back something that looks like the house dress. The button front floral, the practical cotton, the domestic as intentional aesthetic. The philosophy is the same. The garment just has a different name now. Number 12 is the kitten heel. Not a stiletto, not a flat. A short, slender heel, 1.5 inches, sometimes 2 inches, with a slight inward curve at the back. The heel a 1950s woman put on when she had a full day ahead of her and still needed to look dressed. Pharmacy, school pickup, 3 stops on the way home. $4.98 at the department store in 1957. The stiletto arrived in the early 1950s and was magnificent and impractical. The flat said she was not trying. The kitten heel was the answer to both. It gave the leg a line without destroying the foot by noon. Women owned several pairs. It disappeared through the 1970s and 1980s as trainers replaced the errand shoe and block heels replaced the dress shoe. By 1990, the kitten heel was your grandmother's footwear. Miu Miu brought it back on the runway in 2022. Then Valentino, then a dozen more. It has been on every major street-style account in Milan and Paris since 2023. It came back not as a costume, as the most sensible, beautiful shoe anyone had forgotten to wear. Number 11 is the statement brooch. And I want to be specific about what this was in 1955, because it is not what the word brooch suggests today. This was not a sentimental cameo. This was a deliberate focal point, large, often jeweled or enamel, pinned at the collar of a dress, at the lapel of a suit jacket, at the shoulder of a cardigan. $1.49 for a simple enamel pin at Woolworth's. $12 for a rhinestone cluster at the department store jewelry counter. It drew the eye to a specific point and anchored the entire outfit from there. The function was identical to what a bold necklace does today. The brooch just had a different architecture. You placed it exactly where it needed to be. It stayed. It did its job. It disappeared when jewelry went minimal in the 1970s and then became oversized earrings in the 1980s. Gone from everyday fashion by 1990. It is coming back. In editorial fashion for 3 consecutive years. On runways in Europe. On women who have discovered that a piece of jewelry you can pin exactly where it needs to be is more useful than one that simply hangs. Number 10 is the hat. In 1955, a woman did not go to the grocery store, the pharmacy, the post office, or the doctor without a hat. This was not optional. A Woolworth's felt hat cost $1.98. A department store hat ran anywhere from $6 to $15. and wearing one was as fixed a social expectation as wearing shoes. The pillbox, the cartwheel brim, the cocktail tilt with one feather pressed forward. Women owned several and matched them to their outfits. They stored them in hat boxes stacked on closet shelves. They adjusted them in mirrors before leaving the house the same way a woman today checks her phone at the door. What ended the hat was the car, specifically the bucket seat. Hats and bucket seats are structurally incompatible. The brim catches on the headrest, the angle shifts, the hat is crushed. As American life became more car-dependent through the 1960s, the hat became inconvenient, and requirements that become inconvenient do not survive long. Fashion Week. Headwear has appeared on runways every season since 2023 with a consistency that does not feel like experimentation. Something is moving in that direction again. Number 9 is the full slip. And this is the one that explains why 1950s dresses looked the way they looked. A Barbizon slip in 1956 cost $2.98. A sleeveless, fitted undergarment. Think of it as a dress worn under a dress that fell from the shoulder to the knee. Every woman wore one under every dress, not because the outer fabric was sheer, but because the slip gave the dress its drape. A wool dress without a slip drags at the legs and twists when you walk. With a slip underneath, it moves the way the designer intended. The slip also meant that even a $5 cotton dress from the catalog fell like a better garment. The fabric was the same. The layer underneath changed everything. The full slip disappeared when synthetic fabrics replaced natural ones, because synthetics cling less and require less architecture underneath to move correctly. Then everyday dress wearing declined, and the slip had nothing left to serve. What returned is its descendant, the slip dress as outerwear. In 2025 and 2026, satin slip dresses and lace slip dresses are everywhere. Zoe Kravitz, Dakota Fanning, street style in Los Angeles and New York. The grandmother wore it underneath. The granddaughter wears it on top. The form is identical. Number 8 is seamed nylon stockings. And the detail that matters here is the seam. A pair of Berkshire nylons in 1954 cost 79 cents. They were not tights. They were not pantyhose. Each stocking was a single leg garment held up by a garter belt worn at the waist, about $1.25 at the 5 and dime for the belt itself. The stocking had a vertical seam running from the heel to the thigh. That seam had to be kept straight. Women checked their seams, at home in the mirror before leaving, in shop windows mid-errand, at the hosiery counter in the department store when the light was good. A crooked seam was visible and noticeable. It mattered the way a visible stain matters today. Then legs pantyhose arrived in 1969 in that plastic egg on the pharmacy shelf. $1.49, no seam to manage, no garter belt, and you could run in them if you needed to. The entire stocking infrastructure was gone in less than 5 years. Within the vintage dressing community, seamed stockings are worn regularly. Editorial fashion has featured them for 3 consecutive years. Berkshire is still making them. None of these things were replaced by something better looking. They were replaced by something more convenient, and then by something that sold. There is real money in eliminating the step between getting up in the morning and looking dressed. The ready-to-wear industry expanded. Foundations shrank. An entire structural system, layers that each did a specific job, vanished from the average American closet in about 15 years. What is coming back now is not the inconvenience. It is the architecture. Number 7 is the hostess apron. And the distinction matters. This is not the kitchen apron. The kitchen apron was for cooking, full coverage, heavy cotton, practical. It lived at the stove. The hostess apron was something else. Embroidered organdy or fine white linen, a ruffled hem, sometimes a matching cap, $1.49 at the department store, or sewn from a McCall's pattern on a Tuesday afternoon when the children were at school. It was worn at the table, in front of guests, when carrying the casserole from the kitchen to the dining room. It said, "I made this. I am the reason this dinner is happening, and I am still dressed." Every woman who entertained owned at least one, several if she had opinions about the matter. The hostess apron is coming back in the cottagecore and domestic beautiful aesthetic. The embroidered, ruffled version worn over a nice dress and photographed on a carefully arranged kitchen counter. To someone in 1957, this was just Tuesday dinner. To the algorithm, it is content. If your mother had any of these in the house, hit the like button right now, because that is exactly who this channel is for. The remaining 6 pieces are the ones fashion is actively bringing back. Number 1, you almost certainly recognize, even if you have never owned it. Number 6 is the wide cinch belt, not a thin leather strap. 3 to 4 inches wide, sometimes rigid, often in black patent or grosgrain, worn over everything. Over the house dress, over the shirtwaist, over a good coat on a Sunday morning. $3.98 at the department store, $5.98 for one in real leather. It was not a fashion accessory. It was structural. It said, "The waist is here." It anchored the eye to the narrowest point of the body and held it there. Dorothy, who lived in Evanston, Illinois, and worked 3 mornings a week at the dry cleaner on Oak Street, owned 2 cinch belts, a black one and a rust-colored one. She put one on the same way she put on her earrings, automatically, without deliberation, because it was simply part of getting dressed. The cinch belt disappeared in the 1970s when loose, fluid clothing replaced the defined waist silhouette. Lyst, the global fashion data platform, documented a 37% month-on-month increase in searches for what they are now calling corset belts. Wide, structured, waist-defining belts worn over blazers and knit dresses. The name has changed. Dorothy would recognize the garment immediately. Number 5 is the charm bracelet. Not a statement piece, an autobiography. The first charm cost $1.25 at the jewelry counter at Marshall Field's, a small silver bell given to her at her engagement. Then a baby shoe when the first child arrived. A tiny suitcase for the trip to Florida they saved 18 months to take. A small silver house when they finally moved. A Scottish terrier her husband gave her at Christmas because he had written it down when she mentioned it once in passing, and he was that kind of man. She did not buy the bracelet. She accumulated it. By the time she was 50, it was heavy and loud, and it jangled when she reached for anything, and it held 30 years of a very specific life on her wrist. This has entirely disappeared from everyday jewelry culture. Jewelry became minimal. It became a statement of aesthetic preference rather than personal history. We stopped wearing our lives on our wrists. The meaningful jewelry trend has been building. Initial necklaces, birthstone rings, personalized chains. It is moving toward the charm bracelet without quite arriving there yet. When it does, it will not look like a trend. It will look like something found in a grandmother's dresser drawer. I have a photograph of a woman in a hostess apron. She is standing at the end of a dining table that is fully set. Cloth napkins, matching china, a small flower arrangement in the center. She's wearing lipstick. She's holding a casserole dish with both oven-mitted hands, and she's looking at whoever is taking the picture. The casserole was probably tuna. The apron is embroidered with small yellow daisies. The photograph is from 1958. What I keep returning to is how dressed she looks. Not overdressed, simply dressed, as if a weeknight dinner with family was something worth being dressed for. Number 4 is the crinoline. Not the same thing as a petticoat. A petticoat is soft, layers of nylon or net that add gentle fullness and compress when you push against them. A crinoline is stiffened net, horsehair historically, heavily starched or chemically stiffened by the 1950s that holds the skirt in a fixed, rigid shape away from the body. It does not compress easily. It takes up its own space. It makes a faint rustling sound when you walk, $2.98 at Sears in 1953, or you could stiffen your own net with sugar water and a clothes iron if you knew how. The crinoline is why the 1950s full skirt looks the way it does in photographs. Not the skirt, the architecture underneath. It faded as the 1960s brought slimmer silhouettes, and the stiffened net became inconvenient to launder and store. It survived in square dancing, in prom gowns, in costumes. The Zoe report covering the London Fashion Week Spring-Summer 2026 collections ran the headline, "Get ready, the crinoline skirt trend is making a major comeback for 2026. Voluminous, stiffened, sculptural skirts that hold their shape without the body underneath doing any of the work." The same architecture, 70 years later. Number 3 is the swing coat. The reason most people have not thought about this piece is that there is no longer a commonly used name for it. The swing coat was the standard outerwear of the 1950s. It swept out from the shoulders in an A-line or bell shape. No waist seam, no belt, no fitted hip. Simply wider from the shoulder down, like a bell, like something you might open to let someone stand beside you. A good one at Macy's cost $14.98 in 1957. A sale rack version from the Montgomery Ward catalog could be had for $9 or $10. And when you walked in one, it moved with you. The structural logic was precise. The swing coat could go over anything without disturbing it. Over the crinoline without crushing the volume. Over the pencil skirt without binding at the hips. Over a tailored suit without flattening the shoulders. It disappeared when the 1970s brought fitted, belted outerwear. The 1980s pushed it further with structured shoulders and a narrow hip. It has been appearing on runways since 2024. Coats that sweep from the shoulder, coats with volume below the waist, coats that do not nip because they do not need to. The swing coat did not need a waist to flatter. Entire seasons of women who have never worn one are about to discover why. One note before number 2. There is more forgotten daily ritual than fits in any single video. I gathered the beauty routines, homemaking habits, cooking wisdom of 1950s American women into a book at nostalgiawomen.com. I will not mention it again. Number 2 is the opera glove. And this is the clearest example on this list of something coming back not as an interpretation, but as itself. They pulled them on starting at the wrist and worked upward, elbow length or longer depending on the neckline of the dress and the formality of the occasion. White kid leather for evening, black for the theater, pale blush for a dance, $3.98 for a good pair of white elbow-length gloves at the department store in 1955. More for real kid leather, more still if you wanted them long enough to require buttons at the wrist. A woman attending a formal dinner in 1955 without long gloves was undressed in a way that arriving without shoes would be underdressed today. The gloves were part of what the evening required of you, not a style choice, a social contract. They disappeared as formal dress codes loosened through the 1960s and the 1970s. By 1980, evening gloves were period costume. At the 2025 Golden Globes, Kerry Washington wore opera gloves. So did Ariana Grande at multiple appearances in 2024 and 2025. The Spring-Summer 2026 runway shows featured them at multiple houses. The opera glove did not trickle back. It returned. Every piece on this list disappeared because something more convenient replaced it. Number 1 is the exception. It disappeared because one decade decided that extra was excess, and it stayed gone for 30 years, until Dior and Givenchy and Fendi and Balmain put it on every runway this season. Number 1 is the peplum jacket, a fitted jacket with a small flare at the hip, one tailored tier of fabric extending from the waistline. That is the only thing that distinguishes it from a blazer. $11.98 at the department store in 1956, $14 if you wanted the wool. Margaret kept hers on the second hanger. She wore it to appointments, to church, to places where she needed to be taken seriously and also needed to look like herself. Not a blazer, not a suit jacket. The peplum, because it knew where her waist was. It disappeared in the 1990s. Minimalism had no patience for extra fabric at the hip. Dior, Givenchy, Fendi, Balmain, McQueen, Stella McCartney, all of them. Spring 2026. Fall 2026. List documented a 37% increase in searches for peplum pieces month over month. Fashion Times called it the silhouette that defines fall 2026. The jacket was always right. We just stopped wearing it for a while. 13 pieces. Every one of them was ordinary to her, bought without ceremony, worn without comment, replaced when worn out. The cinch belt, the crinoline, the opera glove, the peplum jacket, none of them required a subscription. They required a life where getting dressed was considered part of the day. If this found you at the right moment, subscribe and hit the bell. I will see you in the next one.